I know, isn't it terrible?
Good evening. Welcome to the Haverhill School Committee. Would you please call the roll?
Attorney Rosa.
Here.
Ms. Sullivan.
Present.
Mrs. Ryan Ciadello.
Here.
Attorney Magliachetti.
Here.
Mr. Wood.
Here.
Mr. Marion.
Present.
Mayor Ferrantini.
Present. Would you all please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Anyone here for public comment? Seeing none. The next item on the agenda is our Student Council report from Catherine Hubbard.
Good evening, everybody. Last night, Haverhill High School hosted the Haverhill Police Department information session on vaping. About 50 community members were in attendance, and we are so very grateful to Chief DiNero and Superintendent Moretta for bringing this to our campus. We would like to also thank Mr. Wood for attending last night. They will be airing the presentation on Haverhill Community Television in the near future. With our two snow days on, our terms have shifted. Term 4 for FY19 will officially kick off on Thursday, April 4th, which means the final 45 days will begin for students in grades 9 through 11, and the final 28 days for seniors will also begin on that day. The countdown is on. Thank goodness. Term 3 report cards will be posted in the portal on Wednesday, April 10th. If parents need a paper copy, they can contact the main office. Our guidance department is hosting the annual Haverhill High School College and Post-Grad Opportunity Fair on Wednesday, April 3rd at 6 o'clock in the HHS library. This is a huge event. Representatives from over 60 colleges, universities, branches of the military, and various programs will be on campus. This event gets bigger and better every year. The Fine Arts Academy and Haverhill High School Drama Club presents Footloose. We will have shows on April 4th, 5th, and 6th at 7 p.m. and a matinee on the 6th at 2 p.m. Tickets are $5 for students and $10 general admission. We hope to see you all there. I also hope to see you there, for I will be in that performance. It's official. Our Spring Spirit Week dates have been set. It is scheduled the week before spring break, starting on April 8th. Monday will be Pajama Day. Tuesday will be Twin Day, extra credit for triplets. Wednesday will be Decade Day. Thursday will be Hilly Day. And Friday we will have Color Wars. Grade 12 will be wearing blue. Grade 11 will be wearing pink/red. Grade 10 will be wearing yellow. And grade 9 will be wearing green. Our next supper club will be held on Thursday, April 11th at 6 o'clock in the cafeteria. Our English department, Special Education department, English Language Education department, and Wellness department will be hosting. This is open to all our Hilly families, and we invite our school committee members to attend as well. Thank you and have a good night.
Great job, Ms. Hubbard. Thank you so much. We've missed you, so welcome back.
I missed you guys too.
The next item on the agenda is the superintendent comments and report.
Great, thank you. Good evening. I wanted to start this evening just to sort of recap. When I began on July 1 of last year, I was asked to complete an entry report. And over the past 6 or 7 months, I have visited each of our schools and completed over 75 visits to the schools, actually, talking with students, teachers, viewed instruction, analyzed student data, assessed facilities, met with members of the community as well, attended community meetings and gatherings, and joined a number of groups within Haverhill, including the Mount Washington Alliance and Haverhill Promise, and visited boys clubs and girls clubs, and really gotten to know the community quite well, I think. I have taken all the information that I have gathered, and I have put it together in a report that I have used the DESE district standards and indicators for school districts as sort of the basis, the organizational basis for that report. And it looks at 6 standards of effective schools. And kind of looks at Haverhill and where we stand up against those standards, where we're exceeding and doing quite well in some areas, and other areas where we still have room to growth. And I've compiled all that information, and it should be posted on the district website within the next day or two, and I'll be sending it to school committee members for you all to review in depth. But just to give you sort of the sort of high-level view of some of the things that I found, or found thus far. I think there are 3 main themes that I've been looking at. One is excellence in our school system. And I feel that there are many spots of excellence and many places within our schools where children are excelling to really high levels. However, we haven't reached a point where all our students across the school system are excelling, and it feels like that is due in many ways to a lack of systems and structures that are in place that allow us to really sort of universally push forward and meet the needs of all kids across the district. Similarly, I have found that there are some issues of educational equity across the school district that I think many people know and are aware of in the community. Haverhill is a wonderful place for some students to go to school. We haven't yet reached a point where it's a wonderful place for all students to go to school. I think that some of the issues that we run into across the school district, in particular, are some of the places where we're forced to charge families for things like credit for summer recovery, tuition-based kindergarten, and athletic fees, and some of those things that create inequities for our students whose families don't have the wherewithal to be able to afford that for the kids, and so kids end up struggling. While we do have some opportunities for those students to access those activities for free, can be difficult for children to acknowledge or admit that their families are struggling. And it also sometimes hits those families who are just sort of over the income level very hard when they have multiple children. So I do see that as a real issue in our school district, and I hope that as we move forward, we're going to be able to attack some of those issues of equity and allow all our kids to have access to some really wonderful opportunities that are available within our school system. Another issue or point of interest I found within the school was just access to all students to high expectations, and to holding both our teachers and our students to high expectations, holding ourselves to high expectations. And in order, I believe, to have high expectations, we have to have the resources to meet those high expectations. And it feels like in some places we don't always have the resources that we need for teachers in terms of curriculum, in terms of instructional materials, and in terms of the professional development that they really need in order to allow our kids to make the sustained growth that they deserve and that they need to have. So the report kind of covers these things and talks about these things, and I think as we move forward and we look at our budget for next year and our plans moving forward, we'll be sort of attacking those things. We'll be attacking high expectations for all kids, equity, access, and excellence in our school district, and thinking about how we spend the funds that we do have differently in order to meet the objective of having Haverhill be a really excellent place for all kids to go to school. So I wanted to share that with you all, and I hope that you will read the report as it comes available to you in the next few days, and I'd be happy to answer questions moving forward. I did the basis of that report and the information that I gathered was sort of where we began in the central office, in the schools, in our discussion about right-sizing the schools, right? The idea that some of our classrooms are overcrowded across the school district, particularly at the middle school level, is what we found when we dove into the data. It initially felt like every classroom in every school all over the city was overcrowded, right? But as we really started to dig into things, to look at the data, to visit the classrooms, and to think about it, it became a much more attackable problem, right? It became very clear that the real overcrowding was at the middle school level, and that, in fact, in some of our schools, we do have space. We have space in some of our elementary schools, in some sections of the city, we have space in the classrooms, and class sizes are manageable and even low in some classrooms, and yet they're exceedingly high in others. So it became a problem then that we could attack, right, without a massive influx of cash or without necessarily building new buildings, that we really needed to look at right-sizing our schools to assure that all schools are utilized to their maximum capacity, and that no school is overcrowded, right? It was more about leveling the playing field than it was about more than widening the playing field. So we have begun, as we talked about last week or almost 2 weeks ago now, at a workshop, to really think hard about how we can right-size the schools. What can we do to rearrange the schools that we have, to reconfigure some grades here and there, and to make some smaller moves in order to make our schools more effective and more efficient for our children. And we want to do this in a way, I want to sort of stress to the communities that we're looking to do this in a way that doesn't upset families. We're looking at natural breaks in children's education to think about redirecting them to a different school, and a school that they can stay in for multiple years. We're not interested in uprooting kids from schools that they've found to be part of a community in. We're not interested in moving kids for 1 year. And we're really interested in making sort of a lasting change for kids that can work and allow all of our students to have reasonable class sizes, right? Our plan, we have a plan. It's on the website in sort of a draft form. Now that the school committee has encouraged us to move forward with it, we're really digging deep into the data, and we hope to have a really well fleshed out plan at a work session on April 10th. And I'm not sure of the location on that yet, but we will certainly share that with the public. And at that point, we'll really know what grades will be in which schools, where exactly the lines will be drawn, so that people can understand what our thoughts are. But again, the goal is simply to reduce class size, mainly at the middle school level, and to allow all of our student access to a high-quality education across the city. Hopefully at the school committee on April 11th, we'll have some public comment on that, and potentially a vote. I do believe that over the next, hopefully by Monday, we will have a survey out to families and teachers across the community, just asking some questions, trying to get some feedback. We'll send that to people in their email to hear what people are thinking. That'll be available on the website as well, just to let people know kind of where we stand on that.
Any cost estimates?
We're beginning to look at costs, and we'll be covering that in the budget. We believe there'll be some ancillary and some administrative costs. We believe that the total addition of teachers probably only needs to be maybe 4 teachers, that we can do it fairly cost effectively, in comparison to, say, building an entire building or, stocking an entire new school.
And how about cost? Is there a cost to taking some of the schools we're moving kids into? Do we have any rehab costs, capital costs, et cetera?
So I don't believe that there are major capital costs. Each of the schools that we're planning on using right now are schools that are currently used by students and teachers in Haverhill. So we are looking into that. And at this point, we don't believe they are cost prohibitive. There are always minor costs in a move. Making sure we have the right size furniture, making sure that everything is up to date for us students. We believe, given the benefit that it will be to our students, that it's a reasonable price to pay in order to reduce class sizes right now. In some of the classrooms at Constantino in particular, I was there yesterday, and some of the classes were 35, 36, 37 students. And it's just not an effective learning environment. for our kids, particularly when you think.
Let me say that I fully support the concept.
Yep.
Absolutely, positively. What I hear around town is just what you heard, that the schools are bulging, every school is overcrowded, but it's simply not the case. It needs redistricting, right-sizing, I like the word that you used, and I love the concept. It makes much more sense than trying to build a series of new schools throughout the city, which may or may not be needed 10 or 20 years from now. And it makes much more sense than what I often hear from people, which is to close the doors and not let anybody else into the city of Haverhill. This is a much better solution. So I like the concept. I commend you for doing it. I'd just like to see what the costs are,
Yep.
and before I'm fully on board. But
Absolutely.
the concept is absolutely the right way to go. Can you give us an idea, just so the public can hear it also, of how many vacant seats we have throughout the system? And I want you to take Bradford Elementary, Hunking, the number of kids we could put into St. James, and the other schools that we're reusing also, Bartlett, Greenleaf, Crowell, et cetera. Could we put 500 more kids into the system? We don't want to, but could we?
That would be stretching it, I think. I think we could certainly fit. There's probably 150 to 170 empty seats right now as we sit today, the way the schools are configured.
Okay.
And if we were to reconfigure and to move, part of the proposal would be to reinvent or return St. James to a middle school as it once was. And that school currently houses about 80 students. There's room in that school to handle about 330 students.
Okay.
So that would give us about 250 more seats, a little bit more swing space in the district. We probably wouldn't use all those seats next year because, again, we don't want to sort of wholesale move kids. So we would be looking at kids who are at natural breaks. But we would be looking to put maybe 150 to 160 middle school age students over at
So
St.
we're
James.
up to about 400 extra
Potentially.
kids.
Potentially.
Okay. It's, again, the public needs to hear this,
Yep.
that we can do this, and it isn't going to require a massive effort to build all new schools, or turn the city upside down. We want to build new schools when we need to, but we want to straighten out the class size first. So thank you for doing this.
Sure. Can I just add, I think it's important to know, so what we're thinking about now is really just, it's a short-term solution as we think about a rebuild or a renovation of Constantino, right? It's sort of a 3 to 4 to 5 year solution to a longer-term problem that, as we really think about Constantino, we'll be able to delve into deeper and longer term.
And did you look into the reports that there's some engineering studies lying around somewhere of doing this?
I have a call in about those. I haven't been able to get any verification of that at this point, but if there are studies out there, we will find them. We have preliminarily had some discussions with the Department of Education. They certainly will, vet each of the buildings that we have, but again, we already have students in those buildings. They're active schools. So it should not be a major issue to switch.
I'll leave with
populations.
this, that oftentimes in the past, when people like Mr. Wood have said we should use the school or keep it open, we hear these astronomical numbers, and I often wonder if those numbers are based on real estimates, or frankly, are just an excuse not to use the school. So, anyway, I like your approach. And now I'd like to call on Attorney Magliochetti.
Thank you, Mayor. While we're on this subject, have we submitted the proposals for the engineering studies at Whittier?
So we just had a meeting about that, a subcommittee meeting, a joint facility subcommittee meeting. I believe that a company has been contacted at this point.
Yes.
To look at, proposal has been submitted to a company that we'll be meeting with next week in order to discuss that.
I thought we had to get 3 different bids in order to comply with the requirement.
My understanding is if they're already on the approved vendor list, then we don't need the bids.
They're on the state bid list, you don't
Yep.
need to go out to bid.
All right, I still would like to see some proposals for more than one, though.
Yep.
So,
We have a couple of companies that we've identified that we're interested in. We've,
Oh,
gonna
so it's
have the-
more, it is more than one.
Yeah, we have a conversation scheduled with one
Oh.
of the companies at this point. We will
Okay.
talk to multiple companies.
And do you have any idea of the timeline of when we can expect the company to be selected and have it done?
I do not. I believe that the idea of the public using the pre-approved vendor list means they are pre-approved, and therefore we can get work done in a more expedient manner. We can get bids back and here.
Okay. We'll keep following up on that,
Yeah,
but thank
sure.
you very much.
Yep, no problem.
Ms. Sullivan?
Well, I want to thank you so much. We've sat here, myself included, talking about overcrowding, and we've had back and forth with some of us, like me, saying we have classrooms with 35 and 37, and other people saying, no, everything is wonderful. And so it's really great to have some clarity. And I agree with the mayor. You don't want to create what you don't need. And so I really am so happy that we now have specificity to the issue, that it makes perfect sense that when you have 22 classrooms and you go from 22 classrooms to, is it 12? How many classrooms are at the,
So no, it's the other way around. Actually, most of so K 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across the district. We have roughly 30 of each grade. When you hit 5, 6, 7, 8, for some reason we go down to 22 of each grade. So it's pretty obvious math problem when you start looking at it.
right? So I'm very appreciative. It's so much better to have the specific answer rather than people's impressions. So certainly if you went into Constantino, you'd think overcrowding was an issue. If you went into Bradford L, you'd think, nope, no problem. So I really appreciate all the work that you have done to give us specific answers and to come up with solutions. And I know that you've met with many, many teachers and many, many people in the community. Did you talk about that in your entry report specifically?
Yes, yes.
Can
'Cause
you share that with us?
about who?
Yeah, I mean, I know that that was one of your goals that we asked you to do.
I can tell you some numbers.
Okay.
Okay, so I've had over 260 meetings with staff members.
260?
260 meetings with staff members. I've attended 150 meetings or events with community members. We have created weekly management team meetings, monthly operations meetings, monthly principals meetings, and a series of workshops where we work on things like class size management, re-envisioning data collection, the budget process, rethinking parent registration. We've had an instructional retreat, an operational retreat, an all-staff convocation. So we've
Well, it's too
Had
bad
a
you
lot
haven't
of-
been working hard.
had a lot of meetings. Yeah, there've been a lot of meetings. But a lot of good information.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Since that's one of the things we asked you to do, so I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Attorney Magliochetti?
Sorry, just to follow up on what we were talking about before with the J.G. Whittier and the engineering study. I'm just curious as to how the request of the proposal is going to go out, because like I mentioned before, I had spoken with Solicitor Cox, and I know Gail Sullivan did as well, about developing an overall policy between the school committee and the city as to how these repairs and capital improvements should be done. But one thing we all agree on when it comes to maintenance and repair, at least the way that it's worded right now, it is the duty of the school committee. So any language that goes into the request for the proposal, I think we should have the opportunity to at least to see it and have input to make sure it's of the proper scope. Because I just want to make sure that we're not going to go in with too narrow a proposal and then have to follow up with something else. The point of this study, at least when I proposed having it done, was to look at the entire building, look at the systems, see what can be repaired and what needs to be replaced, and get an expert opinion on that. So before you have these discussions, I know I'd like to see what the discussions are going to be about and about the scope that you're going to talk about. I think that's very important. And I do want to make it clear that I believe it's our decision to make as to what that scope is. Thank you very much.
Sure. Absolutely. I'd be happy to share the documents that we have to date. and take feedback on those. I believe presently the scope has been looking at the structural systems, the structures of the building, and ensuring that they are safe, as well as the HVAC system, including the heating system. And we have addressed issues related to asbestos separately in the piping.
Okay. I know we had the roof done recently. I know
Yeah.
that was one of the big issues.
Yeah.
How about the plumbing in general? Like, 'cause I know we talked about the bathrooms and renovating the bathrooms there, and I believe some of that is in progress.
Yes.
But what about the plumbing that's going to these bathrooms and the plumbing that's going to the water fountains in the building? That should be part of the study as well. We want to make sure that whatever water is passing on to our children is safe.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Let me see, where are we? School committee communications, Boys and Girls Club allocation, Mr. Wood.
Thanks. I put this on the agenda, the last budget hearing, as you may remember. I brought this up, and we did something for the Y in the last budget, and we also voted to do something for the Boys and Girls Club. I spoke to the new director a couple weeks ago, Javier Bristol, and he had mentioned that nothing from the schools was received as the school committee had voted to do. I then asked about it, and apparently there's no record of that vote ever happening, and I know it happened because I was there. I know it was 7-0, but it seemed like no one really wanted to believe me that this ever happened, and the money hasn't been allocated yet. So I was hoping that maybe if someone else up here said that it actually happened, maybe the allocation would happen, because clearly what I say doesn't go very far.
It happened.
We all agree. Would you like
7-0.
some formal verification of that? Would you like to?
Why isn't it in the minutes anywhere?
I have, your guess is as good as mine.
Wow.
Mr. Wood, what would you like us to do? Because
I
we
just
all agree
reaffirm that
happened.
we're gonna allocate because we made a commitment to them. I believe it was published in the
How much
WHA.
did we commit to?
It was 15.
15,000.
It was a match. Someone else.
Yeah,
made
we
it
had
work.
got a donation from
15,
an
did you
individual
say?
that provides actually almost
1-5
yearly.
or 5-0?
15,000.
1-5.
1-5, okay.
Okay, so you want to reaffirm it?
Yeah,
So
I'll-
moved.
Second.
Well, could it have been did they get money from the CDBG program? We usually give them money.
This was an allocation specifically out of our budget to help them with an educational program. Dr. Maddox gave the money in
I
prior
remember this.
years
I
from
do
his
remember.
foundation.
Could they have gotten it from another source? The
They
C-
haven't got it.
They haven't got it from anybody?
No, I spoke
Okay,
to the
got it.
director.
All right, thanks.
Well, did this issue came up when we did the same allocation to the YMCA? Do we know if the YMCA got their allocation?
I don't know if they got their allocation, but I assume they have if no one's complaining.
Well,
YMCA did receive an allocation. This was
you weren't
last
here.
spring.
Yeah, you
but,
weren't here.
But I know that the YMCA did, because they operated a summer program last summer, and the school district donated 15,000 to that.
That's right. And this was a similar.
10,000.
10,000
Thanks,
from the schools, 10,000 from the Maddox Foundation. So 20 altogether.
And the boys' club wasn't the same.
Boys Club
No, it was 15. They had a specific
more.
proposal that the former director, Brian, came and presented to us.
It's fine. It's for reading. It's for helping our kids.
After
It's
school.
it's a good cause.
Right.
So you have a
You have a motion and a
motion
second.
and you have a second, and
Can I call the roll? Attorney Rosa?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
yes.
Mrs. Ryan Ciadello?
Yes.
Attorney Magliachetti?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Marion?
Yes.
Mayor Ferrantini?
Yes. Are there any subcommittee reports? Hearing none, seeing none. New business. The superintendent recommends approval of the following warrants. Unless somebody's going to request an abstention, or I'm going to read them all at once and vote all at once. Any problem?
I'm actually good on all three this time.
All right. 4-1, warrant number EV 201-90329, totaling $316,488.55. 2-4-2, warrant number EV 201-90329B, totaling $605,505.01. Number 3, warrant number JE 201-90329, totaling $3,371.59. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Attorney Rosa.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan Ciadello.
Yes.
Attorney Magliacchetti.
Yes.
Mr. Wood.
Yes.
Mr. Marion.
Yes.
Mayor Ferrantini.
Yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Rosa, you had your light on. Did you want to speak on something? Did I miss you?
Oh, that was fine, Mayor. It was just about the Boys and Girls Club. We're all
Yeah,
That's
he
it.
was.
Okay. Items by consensus. Anybody wish to remove any of
Move
these?
item number A.
A is removed. B is approval of the professional education conference workshop form, and C is use of the facilities.
Move
Is
approval of B and C.
there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? B and C are approved. Mr. Wood?
On the minutes relative to March 14th, under subcommittee reports, it talks about how the superintendent talked about the new SRO plan for next year. But we also made a vote that night to handle the nettles, and it's not reflected in the minutes that there was ever a vote.
Okay, I'll correct it.
So I would move we table the minutes of March 14th, 2019.
Is there a second on tabling?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Items tabled. And is there a motion to adjourn? There's no executive session.
Well,
requested.
we still have to- we still have to approve
March 6th, 2019.
Of the budget workshop.
Did I miss something?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
budget
there was
working
two
session.
in the, there was two. It was a March 9th and a March 6th and a 14th.
There were
Oh, I'm sorry.
two sets of minutes that we were approving under the
Okay,
one
is there a
line
motion
item.
to approve those two sets of minutes?
No, the one set,
Just
March
the
6th.
I tabled
ma-
the 14th.
Is there a motion to approve the March
So
6th
moved.
minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Is there a
Move we
motion to
adjourn.
adjourn? Is there a
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
That was quick.
You don't care about